You know, I've been doing a lot of segments on UFOs, and I thought it was kind of funny and endearing to do so because it's like, what do UFOs have to do with politics and culture and a lot of stuff I normally talk about? But the reality is UFO stories are just interesting. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't believe aliens are coming here. They maybe exist somewhere because of mathematical probability. It's very likely. But whether or not UFOs are alien, probably slim to none, probably military technology. But I think the stories are fascinating. Here's the thing, though. I'm not the only one who's talking about this. We have this story from the Daily Wire. When I saw this story in the Daily Wire, it's from Ash Scow, and I laughed because I do often comment and read many of Ash's stories, and I do notice that sometimes she'll write something about a story I've covered. I don't want to imply that she does this all the time. I've just seen it like once or twice, but I definitely do comment on a ton of her stories. So I did this video on UFOs, a couple, and then I saw she wrote this, and I kind of laughed, and I'm like, I am not being weird talking about UFOs because the Daily Wire is doing it. And then I read into it and it turns out it's actually the New York Times. How cool is this? The New York Times. Wow. What is that? Navy pilots report unexplained flying objects. This is amazing. I'm super stoked on the story. Before we get started, go to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a monthly donation option. I really do rely on your support to keep this going, especially as we're expanding Subverse and trying to do more legit journalism without all the nonsense. Cryptocurrency address, physical address, but of course, sharing the video, liking, and commenting are some of the best things you can do because that engagement is really, really great for YouTube. But here's what we're going to do. The New York Times wrote the story, but admittedly, I think the New York Times often gets long-winded and boring. So let's read the Daily Wire, and if we have time, we'll jump over and see what the New York Times is done about. But I like the Daily Wire because they're going to get more succinct into the interesting points. Also, considering I mentioned I do often read Ash's video articles too much, I should give her credit, and you should follow her on Twitter. She writes, when we think of UFOs, we tend to think of aliens. But we must remember that not all UFOs are extraterrestrial. Well, I'll stop you right there, Ash. I think none of the UFOs are extraterrestrial. And if they are, it's like 0.0000001% likelihood that's the case. No, I think it's probably military, but that's the point she's probably trying to make. The U.S. Navy has been reporting UFOs, suspected aircrafts, encountered during flights that they can't recognize or explain. The New York Times has collected some of their stories, including that of Lieutenant Ryan Graves, an FA-18 Super Hornet pilot. Graves has been with the Navy for 10 years, but in 2014 and 2015, he saw something he couldn't explain. The Times described the objects seen by Graves and other pilots as having no visible engine or infrared exhaust plumes, able to reach 30,000 feet and hypersonic speeds, and at least one of which spun like a top moving against the wind. Graves said these objects, which appeared between summer 2014 and March 2015, would be out there all day. That's crazy. Keeping an aircraft in the air requires a significant amount of energy. With the speeds we observed, 12 hours in the air is 11 hours longer than we'd expect, he added. Graves and other pilots told the Times that they began noticing strange objects after their decades-old radar system was upgraded. The pilots initially thought they were false radar tracks. People have seen strange stuff in the military aircraft for decades, Graves told the Times. We're doing this very complex mission to go from 30,000 feet diving down. It would be a pretty big deal to have something up there. Another pilot, Lieutenant Danny Acoin, maneuvered below one of the objects. He told the Times he was close enough to where he should have been able to see it, but could not. A few days later, the object re-emerged, and this time, a training missile locked onto it. Acoin said his infrared camera locked onto it, too. I'm going to make a sci-fi point right now. He mentions how they're in the air for 12 hours, and it's 11 hours longer than they'd expect. If you're operating within the traditional confines of physical reality, using combustion, for instance, or a jet engine, you need to expend fuel to maintain a certain amount of energy to resist gravity. So I'll put it this way. I've watched some of these YouTube science videos on gravitational force, so now I'm an absolute PhD expert. I'm kidding, by the way. But typically, gravity is constantly exerting a force on you, and you have to exert an equal and opposite force to resist it and stay where you are. In terms of like orbit, you're going so fast, you're going around, and it's keeping you up, essentially. You're exerting that energy. Over time, the orbit decays, you will fall. What if these ships somehow were able to neutralize gravity so they were no longer impacted by it. Anti-gravity, essentially. How much energy would you need? And what if it's not that they have to constantly maintain an inverse amount of energy to resist gravity, but what if they simply flicked a switch and then all of a sudden gravity phases through, they're no longer impacted by gravity? Wouldn't that be amazing? Maybe we think about this all wrong. Maybe when we're talking about flight, we're thinking about we have gravity, we have air, we can use airfoil to fly, we can use a jet engine, a rocket engine, we can resist gravity. But what if there was a way to create some kind of vehicle that was completely unaffected by gravity? If it was anti-gravity, then don't think. Here's the way I think. Imagine phasing somehow so that gravity doesn't impact you. In which case, it wouldn't require that much energy at all. Presumably, if you could flip a switch and then gravity just passes through you, or however. I mean, gravity doesn't necessarily work that way. But you see what I'm trying to say? Just an idea. Maybe I'm wrong and dumb and know nothing about quantum mechanics, but I think it's interesting to think about that. Because if that were the case, then they could stay in the air forever. Flick a switch, gravity no longer affects you, and it doesn't require a ton of energy to maintain that state. I knew I had it. I knew it was not a false hit, he told the Times, but still, I could not pick it up visually. Finally, a pilot saw one of the objects. Graves said the pilot came back from a mission with a look of shock on his face. I almost hit one of those things, Graves said the pilot told him. The pilot described the object as a sphere encased in a cube. What? That's so cool. Footage from these flights showed objects moving in ways no human could survive, such as acceleration to hypersonic speed and then suddenly stopping. Yes, because imagine they're not acting within physical space the way we see it. So now when they move, it's like they're not actually moving in physical space where there's going to be inertia. They're totally phased out of whatever that is. So when they move really fast, to them, it's like they're not moving at all. It's kind of like how Star Trek works with the warp drive. They're moving in between space-time, so they don't feel the forces that, and, they have inertial dampeners, which maybe they have those too, but I don't know. It's cool stuff. The pilots made no statement as to whether they believed the objects were alien. This month has seen several stories about the way the Navy handles such sightings. At the beginning of the month, the Daily Wire reported the Navy was encouraging pilots to report their encounters with unidentified aircrafts. A few days later, the military branch suggested it would renege on a promise to reveal reported encounters. I'm gonna get all crazy, spooky conspiracy on you guys. We have seen a bunch of stories in the past couple weeks about UFOs. Seriously. I've been making videos about them because I mentioned in the beginning, I think it's funny, interesting, and kind of endearing in a sense where it's like, maybe endearing's not the right word, but it's fun to talk about crazy UFOs and science instead of always just being stuck in this world of politics. So I definitely love talking about this stuff, and I think a lot of you guys find it interesting too. It's not, the videos actually do kind of well, so that makes me feel better. But what if the reason all of these stories, and again, I gotta stop. This is conspiracy, semi-facetious joking, okay? I'm not being serious. I'm just saying it's a funny thought. The mainstream media is trying to get you ready for the big reveal. Aliens, they're here. And we've known the whole time. Think about the Men in Black. In the Men in Black, they keep it a secret from everybody. And what does Agent K say? The only way that humans, there's always some death ray or something threatening the planet. And the only way these people get along, with their lives is because they don't know about it. But think about what would happen if aliens did make contact with Earth. How would the Earth respond? It's going to disrupt religions. It's going to massively disrupt economies. It's going to be really, really dangerous. So maybe now you've got the news slowly talking about, hey, this might be a real thing. Hey, the Navy are saying it's real. And then in a couple of years from now, we're just going to be like, oh yeah, we've been hearing about this for years. It's no big deal. You can't just come out and say aliens exist. Now here's the thing. I do not believe it's aliens. I do not believe it's a conspiracy. I don't believe the media is doing this on purpose. I'm just saying that would be cool if that was the case, right? It would make life less boring. How amazing would it be if all of a sudden, first contact, and the government knew, and they had to work us into it before, so the economy doesn't collapse, and then all of a sudden it's like the Vulcans, and we get warp drive, and then you've got to go and join like the Galactic Federation. That would be amazing. I'm pretty sure every Star Trek fan ever is crossing their fingers and hoping that's the case. But don't get your hopes up, because that's not possible for the most. Like, look, it's technically possible. It's not going to happen. It's just not. We don't live in a cartoon. We live in a boring, regular world, and we make up stories like this because we're bored. And that's why I'm talking about it. Not because there's a possibility it's true, just because it's fun. It's what entertainment is. I often think about where we would be in life without video games, entertainment, or something to do. Because after you eat your food and you take a shower, you eat your food, you're alive, you're here, and now you've got several hours in the day. What do? You got to do something. Some people tell stories. Some people find their mission. Some people witness UFOs, and some people believe they're actually aliens. But it's because we want purpose. We want to imagine that life isn't super boring and there's more out there. Unfortunately for all of us, science, at least for now, our human understanding, and my limited understanding of the actual science, is that the universe is expanding faster and faster. And there will come a point where people on Earth won't even be able to see any stars or other planets, and they'll assume it's just nothing. There's nothing out there. And that breaks my heart. That's scary. We're lucky enough to be at a time where we can see the stars. We can only see so far because of how far light can travel over a certain amount of time. But once the universe expands to a certain point, there will be planets, potentially with life, looking at the sky, and it's jet black. Nothing. No stars, no planets, nothing. And even with the best telescopes, the universe will have expanded too much, and there'll be nothing there. And they'll think they're the only ones. And they'll probably believe that they are the center of the universe. That breaks my heart. It might be even more sad that we know, at least with our level of technology now, we'll probably never, or at a certain point, just not get to these other planets, not explore beyond the stars. But I'm hopeful. Whatever these UFO thingamajiggers are, maybe their technology we have, maybe there's something out there. Maybe we will find a way to phase outside of the confines of the physical reality, bypassing gravity, inertia, etc., and we can move beyond the speed of light, warp drive, and then go wherever we want, whenever we want. Alternatively, maybe we're all living in a big simulation, and these are just admins checking up on the game, and the reason you're not supposed to see them is because they're admins. Another joke. Anyway, I hope you found this story fun and interesting, because I certainly do. And thanks for hanging out. I will see you all tomorrow at 10 a.m. on youtube.com/Timcast. For those listening on the podcast, 7 p.m. And I'll see you then. Adios.